So we're going to do roasted ham or gammon. So for this we need to boil or simmer the gammon joint in some water for a couple of hours to help start the cooking process and reduce the salt within the gammon that it's been cured with. So this is 2.7 kilos, which is about £6 in weight, and it's cost £14.82. So we should get about 16 portions out of here. So that works out at under £1 a portion for the meat. So the first thing I've done is I've peeled some carrots, because I'm going to serve some carrots with this, and I've put these in the bottom of my pan. I'm going to make some leek and potato soup with the cooking liquor at a later date. So I have some leeks, so I'm going to chop the quarter part of the leek off, which I wouldn't use in the soup, but it's still packed full of lovely flavour. I'll maybe discard a couple of the really tough leaves, and I'm going to cut the rest up, and when you're cutting it you'll be able to smell the oniony leaky flavour that's still in the tough leeks, so would otherwise go to waste. So why not use them to flavour your stock? So I'm just going to wash those under the sink, because they've got a little bit of gritty dirt in from where they've been growing in the soil. Give those a good rinse. And then they can go in as well. And then I'm going to also serve with some parsley sauce, so I can pull off any long stems that I have from the parsley and put those in to flavour the stock. There we go. And a few peppercorns. So although this is a large piece of gammon, you can get quite small pieces in the supermarket, which will serve sort of 4 to 6 people. So you can roast and doing what we're doing today on a smaller scale. You would cook a piece of gammon for 25 minutes per pound, or 450 kilos. So you can obviously work out the cooking time from that. This is going to take about 2.5 hours to simmer away with this size joint, and then we're going to glaze it and roast it off later. So I'm going to take the gammon out of its packaging. And put it in my saucepan, and then top it up with water. So the vegetables are at the bottom. If you put the vegetables, some of the vegetables will rise to the top, but if you put them underneath, then it will help to flavour the gammon a little bit better. So I've now just covered that with water. I'm going to put the lid on top, and I'm going to bring that up to the boil. It's gone on the Aga to come up to the boil, and then I'm going to simmer it in my simmering oven of my Aga, or you turn the heat down on a conventional cooker and simmer it for 2.5 hours in this case, or in a smaller joint maybe just for an hour. So the gammon has now come up to the boil, so I'm going to put the lid on and put it into the simmering oven of my Aga, or you would reduce the heat, and then this is going to simmer for 2.5 hours. So the gammon has been simmering away in my oven for 2.5 hours, so I'm now going to take it out of the water, let it drain. I'm going to reserve the cooking liquor, because I'm going to make some leek and potato soup with that, and then I'm going to remove the string netting that's covering the gammon. And then I'm going to remove most of the fat. So that's the skin, and then there's also a good layer of fat under there as well. So we're not going into the meat, we're just loosening the skin off to start off with. We want to keep just a little bit of fat to give us a nice crispy finish. So that's all fat. A little bit of skin just around the edge there. Just here. And then I'm going to make little, and I'm not cutting, I'm just cutting through the fat. I'm not actually cutting through the meat. And this will help the fat and sugar crisp up and also makes a nice pattern. Now I'm going to very, very simply just put a sugar topping to this, but you could add any herbs or spices that you fancy. One thing that is very nice in with the sugar is some English mustard powder. So I've got just dark brown sugar, and I'm going to press that in to this fat. I find that if you use honey, the honey actually runs off quite quickly, and you don't get such a good glaze. You end up having to baste the gammon a lot. So this is actually a lot easier. You can see the heat from the gammon is actually just starting to melt the sugar slightly. So if you think that was already slightly runny honey, then it would already be well running off. Okay, so this is now ready to go in the oven. So I'm going to put it in a hot oven at 200 degrees C, or in my roasting oven of my Aga. And that's going to go in for 20 to 30 minutes until it has a nice shiny finish. So I'm going to serve my gammon with a parsley sauce. So I've got some parsley that I've just picked from the garden, and I'm just holding it together and slowly chopping it up to start off with. And once it's slightly chopped up, I'm then going to hold the tip of the knife down on the chopping board and then chop the herbs finely here. Another nice sauce to serve with your gammon is Cumberland sauce, which at some point I will make and put a separate video up on YouTube for. That's it's an old family favourite recipe to serve with gammon. So now I've chopped that down nice and finely. I've chopped it so fine that you actually can't see any individual leaves of the parsley. So the gammon is now a beautiful, deep, rich brown colour. It's had 25 minutes in the oven. And so I'll leave that to rest for 10 minutes or so whilst I make the other things, that mash the potatoes, cook the carrots, and make my parsley sauce. So to make my parsley sauce, I've melted a little bit of butter in the pan. I'm just going to add a little bit of flour, and I'm going to cook that through. So it's quite yellowy at the minute, so I'm just going to cook that so it becomes a paler, browner colour, and then it'll be ready for me to add my milk. I can add in the parsley at this stage because the heat will just allow the flavours to be released a little bit. So you can see, although I've obviously added the green parsley, you can see it's coming a slightly paler colour. So this is the point you add milk, a little bit to start off with. A bit more milk. So this is the bechamel based sauce. So that's all mixed in nicely now. So I don't need to keep whisking it. I can just use an ordinary spoon. I'm going to add a little bit of pepper to that. And adding the pepper straight off means that when it comes up to temperature, you will get the flavour of the pepper and not quite so much of the hotness of the pepper. You can see you've got the nice green parsley and the sauce is starting to thicken. Roux-based bechamel sauce needs to come up to the boil to cook out the flour and completely thicken. You can see that's getting thicker and thicker, and then it'll start to bubble in a moment, and then it's ready. There we are. I can see the bubble just coming. There we go. That's nice and thick and perfect consistency. So we've got these lovely sugary hammy juices that I'm going to pour in here, that can be served with the ham and the parsley sauce. And then you just carve up the ham, that beautiful slices. Ready to serve a little bit of your sauce.